Hello there, this is James Croft, UJ's 1978, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or more accurately, the hysterical overreaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
And after that, after some time to reflect on exactly what kind of tone you want to put out into the nation, and hearing the responses to what you put out initially, he actually had a second go at it. And where'd he go with that one?
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders.
First of all, I'm not ashamed to admit that my first reaction to the news of his death was laughter, because my sister in Satan, a hate-mongering Christo-fascist troll who openly declared that the epidemic of school shootings in the US, which is to say the terrifyingly regular mass murder of children, is an acceptable price to pay for the God-given right to bear arms, because he never imagined for a single second that the price in question could ever be paid with his own arterial blood.
That's the guy I was telling you about, Friendship Mage. He wants to destroy everyone who's different from him or has different opinions. I'm gonna use your friendship magic on him.
First thing they teach you as a friendship mage. Fascists can only make friends with lead.
Most atheists say that the supposed fine-tuning of the universe, which is a fallacy in itself, but regardless though, that this supposed fine-tuning is the thing most likely to lead them towards a belief in God. But for me personally, the supreme chef's kiss irony of this Christo-fascist troll who earned millions through dismissing school shootings to essentially be a victim of a school shooting while smugly blurting out another racist dog whistle of a gotcha in another publicity stunt of a debate about school shootings. That is definitive proof in my mind that Andy Kaufman is God and Charlie Kirk was his defining cosmic punchline.
So,
Fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back! White man, fight back! This is such bullshit. I've never been so pissed in my whole life. And this murder of Charlie Kirk right here in Utah. I'm so freaking pissed right now. This is bullshit. I just saw blood squirting out of his neck. I love that guy. He would have been our next president. I am so pissed right now. Why do they always come with fucking violence? Gosh damn it. Use your is there talking to you people? Who shot Charlie Kirk? I'm driving in a problem right now. I'm so pissed. Fucking animals. You liberal, progressive, deranged fucking animals. You are so hateful in your hearts to go out and shoot a young man who's never hurted anyone with Christian values, a young, beautiful family, a father, a husband, a friend, a son.
She's going for that Oscar.
You shot him. Why? Because you didn't agree with his politics? Because you didn't agree with his ideology? That's the reason why he deserves to die? You fucking animal!
This is the shooter. He's a Republican, in case y'all were wondering. He's not gay, in case y'all were wondering. He is indeed Caucasian. And was born here. Yes, he was. Yes.
Your rhetoric of fucking unity with violent Satanists is just as dangerous as the left's fucking call for violence against people. If you're calling for unification with people who are actively killing you, you are just as irresponsible and just as fucking stupid as the psychos doing the opposite. No thanks. Shut the fuck up, woman. I have no interest in what you have to say. And again, this is one of those things. The leadership either starts matching the public's fucking demands, or we will simply dismiss leadership and we will lead ourselves. That's your options right now, Republican Party. You fucking mirror what the public is asking for and your constituents are asking for, and or we will just completely ignore you. It goes for every single member of the Republican Party. The American patriot has no interest in your kumbaya fucking garbage at all. None.
I am Charlie Kirk. I will not be silenced, and conservative voices across this nation will never be silenced.
You know, it doesn't surprise me that a white woman would appropriate the symbol of indigenous genocide for a white supremacist. That red handprint symbolizes the silenced voices of our murdered and missing indigenous women, men, two-spirited people, and children. It symbolizes the ongoing genocide that has never stopped for the past 533 years. To take the symbol of a silenced genocide and use it for a white supremacist and a white supremacist movement couldn't get any more fucking ironic. It proves just how inherently anti-indigenous white supremacy is. They will do anything to start a war. They will do anything to genocide my people. They will do anything to steal our lands and our resources, including appropriating our own genocide that they created. The war you want, you're not going to win. You haven't won it yet, because we're still here, and we're not going anywhere. Your belief system will inevitably be your fall, because at the end of the day, everything must always return to balance, and y'all have tipped the scales for way too fucking long. You have no idea what it's like to have your voice silenced. So I'm about to let you find out. I'm sure we can conjure up enough people from Instagram and TikTok to make sure your account goes away permanently. See, we got 533 years of white fatigue behind us. You wanted to fuck around? You're gonna find out. Have a day.
And speaking of Charlie Boy's smugly self-righteous elitist privilege, no, I'm not going to give the standard contractually obligated thoughts and prayers disclaimer that I condemn all political violence on hashtag both sides, that the Christo-fascist hate-monger in question didn't deserve to die, or that my thoughts are with his poor grieving family, because number one, the only time when privileged white people ever condemn political violence is when, just as was the case when the profit-gouging welfare parasite got Luigi'd at the end of last year, they're terrified that the peasants are getting too uppity, that their privilege no longer protects them, and horror of horrors, they might be next.
Sometimes I just have one simple dream, which is for AOC and Bernie Sanders to not piss me off for at least 1 month. But every month, that fails to happen. Political violence must end. The shooting of Charlie Kirk, no. The chaos, we cannot go down this road. It has no place in America. Same exact cassette. Political violence has no place in this country. So I have a question. You saw the whole stream of blood coming out of that guy's neck, and you got so horrified. But for 2 years, you're seeing the organs come out, like burst out of Palestinian people's bodies, okay? Their intestines, their bodies are burnt, just burning, melting on the screen, burning inside of tents. And there wasn't this urge to stop the violence. So what do you mean there's no place for violence in America? America's funding violence.
We at Corporation don't condone any form of violence. What about those guys? Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Silly Billy, it's only violence when you do it. When the government does it, it's authorized use of force.
And I'm not anywhere near rich or famous enough to worry about them coming after me, either physically or online. Hell, I don't even have a job or career to lose, let alone any political or promotion ambitions, as companies fire staff left and right for fear that, ironically enough, their employees' free speech might hurt Trump's delicate feelings and therefore incite legal or even violent reprisals.
All right, guys, so I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen cancel culture this out of control in my life. And all of it is coming from the right wing. All of it. The same people that were clutching their pearls and falling on their fainting couch and whining about cancel culture for the past 8 years. Now, all of a sudden, they are the biggest purveyors of cancel culture. So this is wild. Let me walk you through this here. So let's start with this. You have the vice president, J.D. Vance. He sat in for Charlie Kirk for his radio show. Now, that right off the bat is very weird that Charlie Kirk was, I mean, it's game, set, match on this point. Like, he was in a propaganda arm of the Republican Party and of the regime. That's what he was, which is why the vice president could just fill in and, the show is just like it would be on any normal day, right? So he fills in, and listen to what he says here. This is incredible.
Now, our government, you heard me talk to Stephen Miller about this, will be working very hard to do exactly that in the months to come. We're not always going to get it right. We will sometimes move more slowly than you would like. We will sometimes move more slowly than I want us to. But I promise you that we will explore every option to bring real unity to our country and stop those who would kill their fellow Americans because they don't like what they say. But you have a role too. Civil society, Charlie understood this well, is not just something that flows from the government. It flows from each and every one of us. It flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination. Get involved, get involved, get involved. It's the best way to honor Charlie's legacy.
So if somebody says something about Charlie you don't like, try to get them fired, try to take away their livelihood, try to force them to live in poverty. That's what he's saying. That's the point. Now, meanwhile, would he agree if somebody said something overtly racist? Would he agree with left-wingers calling the employer and trying to get that person fired for saying something overtly racist? No, we know that's not the case because that's what a lot of the anti-cancel culture stuff was about 4 or 5 years ago. It's all about like, hey, you might not like what this person says, but free speech, right? And like what? They should lose their job because they hurt your feelings? Like, fuck your feelings, snowflake. That was the whole idea. Now, all of a sudden, they do a complete 180 on that point. By the way, he also says other things in this podcast which are just not true, or at the very least, there's mixed evidence for it. So one of the things he says is people on the very liberal side support violence at a higher rate than people on the very conservative side. Here's a poll that says literally the exact opposite. For people who have a favorable view of Trump, 20% are okay with political violence. For people who have an unfavorable view of Trump, 10% are okay with political violence. So it's double for people who are far right support political violence compared to people who are far left. All right, but I still got so much more to get to. So here's Pam Bondi. She was doing, get this, she was doing the podcast of Stephen Miller's wife. Apparently, Stephen Miller's wife has a podcast as her husband, Goebbels, rounds up all the undesirables around the country and shoves them into concentration camps. And Pam Bondi comes on and listen to what she says here. This is really incredible.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people?
By the way, yes, you're seeing that correctly. Stephen Miller's wife has brown skin as he rounds up brown people all across this country, even legal ones, even ones here on green cards or visas, rounding them all up, don't care about their legal status, but his wife has brown skin.
So we show them that some action is better than no action.
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
This is so incredible for so many reasons, but the biggest one being, this has been like a rallying cry of the right for so long that there is no such thing as hate speech in this country. That because of the First Amendment, because we believe in free speech, there is no such thing as hate speech. In fact, who recognized that more than anybody? A guy by the name of Charlie Kirk. He said, hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. She said the exact opposite. Guys, they are copying and pasting some of the arguments used by the wokest of the woke people that they claim to despise 7 seconds ago. But the fact of the matter is, they like the wokeness, they like the censorship, they like the cancel culture as long as they get to be the ones doing the censoring and doing the canceling. That's the point. They believe in nothing in terms of principles. All they believe in it's power. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Whatever we do is okay, whatever they do is bad, and we're going to ruin their lives for not being with us. That's the point. That's what we're witnessing. But by the way, just as a factual point of case law in this country, yes, there is no such thing as hate speech. There is no such... Now, she then goes on to move the goalposts and say, no, I'm talking about like hate speech as in direct threats of violence. Well, that's not hate speech. That's not hate speech. Yes, you are allowed. It is legal. It is completely legal and allowed. If somebody dies or somebody was killed and you don't like them, you're allowed to say mean things. Of course, that's not against the law. And that shouldn't even be grounds for firing. But now we've had this fucking tidal wave of people getting fired, losing their jobs. One person in Texas got arrested for mocking Charlie Kirk. They never believed in free speech. It was all fake. It was all fake. I sincerely and utterly don't know how anybody can look at the right and find them politically appealing when every single principle they claim to have, they throw out the window on a whim at a moment's notice. Just like, oh, small government, small government, small government. Really? You motherfuckers explode the debt and the deficit way more than any Democrat does. Way more. Free speech, anti-cancel culture. Now, all of a sudden, they love cancel culture. They hate free speech. So there's not a single thing they won't flip on because at the end of the day, again, I need you to understand this. All they care about is power. All of their decision-making stems from, we're the good guys, you're the bad guys. Fuck you, and we're right about everything no matter what.
On top of which, I'm English. So what are you going to do? Throw a scone at me?
We'll move to England, eh? Worst they got there is, drive-by arguments. I say, Jeremy, isn't that Reginald B. Stiffworth, the young upstart chap who's been touting the merits of a united European Commonwealth?
Why, yes, I dare say that's the fellow.
Oh, let's get him. Oh, Reginald! I disagree!
And number two, because literally the only reason why moderate liberal centrist fascist collaborators are rewriting history to saint Charlie Boy as a martyr of free speech who was gunned down for merely debating his sincerely held political opinions in the free and open marketplace of ideas is entirely and solely because he was a privileged white man who was personally polite and kind to them.
So I said in a video about David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen, like a couple weeks ago, that I hate liberals more than I hate most political groups. And I said that because liberals take people's feelings that are valid in terms of anger at the status quo, anger at fascism, anger even at capitalism, and they direct it into a meaningless place that only props up the status quo. And you've seen that a lot with the liberal reaction to Charlie Kirk and how they've spoke about him afterwards. And these are also the same liberals who have often said, you know, pretty correct things about his rhetoric and how he's espoused like very hateful views about pretty much every single marginalized group of people in the United States. And now suddenly they're all like really upset. And I think it shows you many things. Part of it is liberals still want to be in the club. They want to be in the same ecosystem as the far right and these mainstream conservatives. So what they're saying right now is this like hysteria from conservatives targeting anyone who doesn't bow down and say Charlie Kirk was a great guy. And they're going along with that because they want to stay in the club. And you're seeing people like sanitize his image completely. It reminds me of the start of that Lenin book. He talks about Karl Marx being sanitized by like the German elite to make him seem like some sort of like sock dem, less revolutionary figure. This is like the opposite thing, where you take someone who is like really hateful and bigoted and has said so much terrible shit on camera, and then you act like he was a saint or something. It's bizarre. And I don't understand why liberals have to trick anyone. I think AOC and a couple other like politicians, they made the exact like correct point. He's a victim of gun violence, and gun violence that happened to a school in the same week. He's a similar victim. And also the two people who did the killings were also conservatives as well. So that is an epidemic in America right now, and that's what should be talked about, and that's what you can talk about. You don't have to talk about, oh, Charlie Kirk was actually a great guy and stuff. It's like, okay, he is a victim like the others, and let's talk about that, and let's talk about how you reform that, or what you should do, or what the actual problem is. It is far-right ideologies with a very easy access to guns, which is causing so many deaths in America right now. And liberals, you can just talk about that. You don't need to cry, as we're going to see, about it. Because liberals, no one believes you. No one believes you. So it's just so obvious to the rest of us. You're bending the knee to fascism. You're bowing down to the fascists who are saying it's transgender ideology and trying to target trans people because of far-right people doing shootings. And you're helping them with this.
Sure, he was a raging bigot who called for entire people groups to be stripped of their rights and even exterminated, but he was nice to me while we literally debated whether or not other human beings have the right to even exist at all, let alone be regarded as human beings deserving of equal rights, dignity, and respect, all as an abstract thought exercise, mind you, conveniently shielded from the actual consequences of his sincerely held political and social opinions by our shared privileges.
Conservatives have been trying really hard to blame trans people for the death of Charlie Kirk. They wasted no time in trying to pin it on us, and they're still doing that. They are now claiming that Tyler Robinson's roommate is actually transgender, which is not confirmed, and that they were romantic partners, which is also not confirmed. What we do know is that this person has been fully cooperative with the FBI and voluntarily helping with their investigation. But even before that, it was falsely reported that the ammo was engraved with transgender ideology. That was actually memes and anti-fascist slogans. Nothing even remotely trans-related. Before there was a suspect, Donald Trump Jr. was one of many who baselessly claimed it must have been a trans person.
These same people spewing the idea that, white men are the greatest domestic terror threat. It's like, I don't know, guys. Like, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, it's the radical trans that have killed. It feels like they've done practically every mass shooting in America for the last few years, but we're not allowed to talk about it.
And he also said that trans people are more dangerous than Al-Qaeda and the Taliban on 9/11. He said that on 9/11. Nancy Mace also claimed, with no evidence, that the shooter was a T-slur.
Sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny.
And called for the death penalty, later changing her tune when it ended up being a cis white guy from a Mormon MAGA family. And it took literally zero time to see the real-world consequences of this kind of dangerous anti-trans rhetoric. The day of the shooting, right-wing Twitter had already decided to blame this random trans woman in Seattle named Michaela. She was falsely accused and harassed for days. Her Twitter account was suspended, and she had to make an official statement saying she had nothing to do with what happened. And the accusation was based on nothing. A deleted account of a user named Omar tweeted, "Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him." Literally, let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. The Twitter detectives claimed that this was secretly Michaela, and they believed that because Omar had previously retweeted one of Michaela's tweets. A joke she posted about Dr. Pepper that had thousands of likes and retweets. Omar was one of them. That is literally the only connection between the two of them. But if you Googled the Omar account, her tweet was among the results. Her picture showed up. So the brilliant minds of MAGA Twitter concluded it had to be her. Now, luckily, being at work all day in an entirely different state is a pretty solid alibi. She wasn't arrested or anything, but it is scary to see just how easy it is for any trans person to be targeted and dogpiled on. There is a coordinated effort from the right to paint us as a danger to society, and they are using the death of Charlie Kirk to falsely push that narrative. So I guess politicizing a tragedy is only bad when you're calling for gun reform in the wake of children being murdered, but totally fine when you're inciting violence against a marginalized group that had nothing to do with the situation.
You know, the way that all politics used to be back in the good old days when it consisted entirely of privileged white men who were all members of the same country clubs, good-naturedly debating over whether black people or women were even fully human, let alone should be granted the privilege of equal rights. So why can't we go back to the good old days of that kind of hashtag civility in politics?
If you are condemning violence against Charlie Kirk, but not hundreds of thousands of unalived Palestinians, you have internalized white supremacy. If you are condemning violence against Charlie Kirk, but not the violence that ICE is enacting upon your neighbors, you have internalized white supremacy. Hearing politicians say that there is no place for violence is an erasure of black and brown people and all people who are marginalized under a system of white supremacy. So that also means queer people and poor people and women. Because violence enacted upon us is the cornerstone of the United States. It is how it was founded, how it was built, and how it continues to exist. That is why when violence is enacted upon us, it is not even considered violence. But the higher you are on the white supremacy hierarchy, the less acceptable violence becomes, whether or not you have enacted and created incredible violence yourself. And we can't only think about violence as individual acts. Violence is systemic. Violence is built into white supremacy culture and capitalism and imperialism.
7 HBCUs had to close their doors today and lock down after violent threats following the Charlie Kirk assassination. You know, despite the fact that the suspect looked like this. So many people correctly theorize that this would lead to escalating political violence, and unfortunately, as per usual, black and brown people are forced to bear the brunt of that. Hampton University, Virginia State University, Alabama University, and Bethune-Cookman University all received direct threats. Additionally, Spelman College, Southern University, and Clark Atlanta University issued shelter-in-place or lockdown orders just as a precaution. These are threats of terrorism, by the way. We don't have a motive. We don't even have the shooter yet. We have a suspect who's not even black, but we don't even have the shooter yet. But none of that matters because this was always going to be used as an opportunity to scapegoat black people. Because that's what white supremacism does, and Charlie Kirk was a white supremacist. This is not the first time, nor is it the last time that HBCUs will receive racially motivated threats. But this is the level of hate, of racial incitement that comes with violent platforms like Charlie Kirk's.
White man fight back! 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 White man fight back!
Because even words and beliefs have consequences, you self-righteous ivory tower dwelling fucks, as Charlie Boy learned himself the hard way.
So the other day on the show, we talked about how the fascism in this country is getting worse and worse by the day. It truly is. Things where we thought there were lines in the past, there are no lines anymore. And people can say the most disgusting, deplorable, deranged, disgusting things you've ever heard, and it's nothing. It's water off a duck's ass. Nobody even talks about it. So at the same time that people are getting fired for literally quoting Charlie Kirk directly and posting it, his own words, they're getting fired for doing that. You have Fox News hosts who are saying, let's kill all homeless people, and they get a little slap on the wrist, have to give a half-assed apology, and then they don't get fired. There's no consequences whatsoever. This is the country we live in. So a cancel culture for anything liberal or left of center If you're right wing, you can go as far as you want, say whatever the hell you want. You can fucking goose step and zig heil, like Elon Musk literally did. Like he did. Here's what Brian Kilmeade said on Fox and Friends the other day. Listen.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this?
Involuntary lethal injection. Just kill him. Involuntary lethal injection. Just kill him. We have nearly 800,000 homeless people in this country. 800,000. We have about 30,000 homeless veterans in this country. For a lot of those people, it's literally just a money issue. Hey, I don't have the money to be able to pay to put a roof over my head. He wants to criminalize poverty and make the punishment the death penalty. The death penalty. Criminalize poverty. Jesus Christ. Literally a war on not only poor people, the poorest of poor people, the most downtrodden and left behind by society. Kill them. Fuck them. They don't count. Kill them all. Involuntary lethal injection is what he said. All right, well, guess what? The same week that a Fox host says kill them all, talking about homeless people, guess what happened? More than a dozen injured in Minneapolis shooting at homeless camp and near transit station. 8 people have been injured in a shooting at a homeless camp in Minneapolis with 4 in critical condition. 8 people have been wounded, including 4 with critical injuries in a shooting at a homeless camp on private property in Minneapolis, police said. The shooting happened just hours after and blocks away from another shooting that left 5 injured near a transit station, as city officials acknowledge a spate of recent violent crime in the area. Those shootings come during a particularly violent summer for the Minneapolis area. This includes the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband in their home, as well as the shooting of another state lawmaker and his wife the same day in June. A mass shooting at a Minneapolis church in late August killed 2 children and 21 others injured. Police learned of the shooting at the homeless encampment around 10 p.m. Monday when an off-duty officer working at a nearby retail store was approached by people running from the camp and reporting gunfire. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said in a news conference following the city's latest mass shooting, the officer left the store and heard gunfire coming from the encampment. Now, to be fair, we have no idea if this is somebody who heard Brian Kilmeade say that and they did it. But it is quite a coincidence here, and also quite a trend that now the gun violence has kicked into fucking high gear, bro.
You can't spend decades riling up a devoted base of angry, heavily armed fanatics to believe that they are the righteous, chosen, superior people, and everyone who they hate and fear is part of an organized globalist conspiracy against them, and then claim to have only been debating your sincerely held opinions when somebody, somewhere, acts on that belief, especially when the stochastic terrorist in question listened to someone even more extreme than you were and decided that you were now a part of the globalist conspiracy against him personally, which at time of recording appears to have been precisely what happened in Charlie's case.
After sleeping on the text exchange released by the prosecutors, you guys, I just want to say I'm calling bullshit on it. I do not think these are legit, and I'm not alone. There are bipartisan calls right now that what the prosecutors receive from the FBI is total bullshit. It's not making sense. Put this up, Kylie. I am still okay, my love. Now, I have a 22-year-old son. He doesn't speak this way. A little while longer yet is another quote from the letter. Till we died of old age. Grab my unseen. A bit over a week. And then he refers to a squad car. He uses the phrase circle back. He refers to his car as a vehicle. This is just, there's something incredibly fishy about this. I do not trust Kash Patel's FBI. He's a conspiracy theorist. Dan Bongino is a conspiracy theorist. They had podcasts where they trash talked the FBI for 4 years, which was their audition to get this job. Their number one thing is that they are Trump loyalists. I'm just not buying that this kid texted, ever since the election, my dad's been hardcore MAGA. If he and this roommate were in a romantic relationship, Why do you have to say that? That would be assumed. Why are you giving all these details about changing clothes? I'm just telling you guys, it stinks to high heaven. I'm not buying it. I don't trust anything that this administration puts out. They immediately, here's one of the main reasons as well, aside from knowing that 22-year-olds don't text like this. One of the main reasons is immediately after Charlie Kirk's murder, there was a organized, coordinated messaging attack on the right, that this was left-wing ideology, that these were leftists that did this. And then within 12 hours, it had swollen into left-wing transgender terror cells. That's what, before they even had this guy. And here's another tell in this letter, in the text exchange. He says, the roommate allegedly says, I thought they caught the guy. And then Robinson responds, that was some old crazy dude. So let me get this straight. You're worried about the rifle that you reassembled while you're changing clothes, and you're texting all these details to your roommate, but you're also logged into your phone analyzing, and you know that some guy was picked up and then released. I don't know that I even knew that at that time. And I'm not trying to allegedly stash a murder weapon. I'm calling bullshit. I don't believe this for a second.
I agree with you. It's too convenient, given what you said. The immediate narrative was it was a leftist trans person, but he didn't fit the narrative. White, Christian, MAGA,
Mormon.
It did not fit their narrative. And that's never stopped Donald Trump from lying or corruption before. So why should it now?
And moving along, I want to highlight this tweet from Hassan Piker. He says, half the right thinks the messages are fake because it doesn't implicate the trans person. So there's a bunch of people that believe that this is wrong because the messages provide cover for the alleged trans roommate. The other half think the shooter is a patsy because it was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk. Hassan, a leftist, says, I will say the text messages are too perfectly plugging holes for the investigators and unnatural. And what I'm seeing here in Hassan's tweet, you guys, is bizarre bipartisan support. And to fight this fascist regime, it's going to require this. It is going to require people on the far right that have these podcasts and people on the far left to save our Constitution and our First Amendment. And this is the exact same thing that all of these bots and the administration are trying to prevent us from doing. Let's hear from Matt Walsh what he says about this. This is a far right anti-trans nut job. I am leaning very strongly towards the theory that this text exchange was scripted as a way to absolve the boyfriend. So his big thing is he's anti-trans. It's almost exactly what Walter White did at the end of Breaking Bad. This feels like a strategy they cooked up from watching too much TV. So this is the far right anti-trans movement. He's calling bullshit on it. Hassan Piker's calling bullshit on it. Jennifer and Pumps are calling bullshit on it. I'm calling bullshit. Next up, we have Steve Bannon of the War Room. He's not buying it. Play the clip.
As is presented in Utah, I'm not buying all of it. I'm particularly not buying those text messages. It just seems too stilted, too much like a script, actually a bad script.
We've always said that this administration is incompetent. And this is the highlight of this incompetence. But what's so sad about this is incredibly dangerous. This is a wild time to live in the United States, and they have eroded the institution so much that within 9 months, I don't believe an effing word coming out of the FBI. Not one word, because Cash Money Patel is blindly loyal to the cult leader. And then behind the cult leader, you've got the failed drag queen, smoky eye sociopath, Little Smokey. And then it gets even darker. You get to Palantir, you get Elon Musk, you get to these very dark forces. There are people on the far right that see this. They see that people that are more powerful, with more money, with more nefarious intents than Matt Walsh and Steve Bannon, they see that they are sucking up to Trump, and they have the bank account that Trump is impressed with. And so there is a very weird time right now where we all need to focus on, because I believe we're at a precipice. I believe it's going to take some level of bipartisan voices to save this democracy. And I'm starting to see that this could possibly happen, because if the right wing is calling bullshit on the FBI that they wanted to take over, this is a window that we cannot close the door on.
And while you were all busy clutching your pearls, wiping away your bitter tears and penning your hagiographies of that sainted martyr who died in the name of free speech, the Trump regime is actively threatening to deport any immigrant who doesn't grieve for his favourite fascist influencer hard enough, having previously had a young student snatched up by ICE for the crime of co-authoring an op-ed opposing genocide, and more journalists have been killed in Gaza during the last 2 years than were killed during all of World War II and the Vietnam War combined, with the Zion-Nazi genocide forces actively targeting them and their families under the evergreen excuse that they're members of Hamas spreading anti-Semitic propaganda, or in other words, free speech. And speaking of which, in America, it is illegal to boycott the Zion-Nazi colony occupying Palestine. All criticism of Zionism is an anti-Semitic hate crime, and Zoran Mamdani is being hounded to condemn a simple slogan which he never even used himself, either online or in person, while on the other hand, fascists are free to joke about and actively call for political violence against their enemies, because all free speech is equal, but white Christo-fascist and or Zion-Nazi free speech is apparently more equal than others.
So, it's funny, I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't...
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
I'm still being dragged for mocking that fucker. Yeah, the same guy that mocks us, mocks our genocide, and the same guy that calls us Muslims stupid. Shame on me for mocking him, right? Shame on me for mocking someone that peddled propaganda to justify genocide and pinkwashing it when there's only one law that exists that criminalizes homosexuality in Gaza, and that was imposed by the British, that carries a sentence of 10 to 14 years. It's not because the Palestinians made it, it's because the British brought it. Oh yeah, one more thing. There's no evidence of Palestinians ever enforcing that law either. None.
Indeed, if a black man, Muslim immigrant, or trans woman had attempted to do what Charlie Boy achieved wealth, fame, and power, and is now a sainted martyr for doing, namely holding staged debates on college campuses in which they spouted bigoted dog whistle gotchas and logical fallacies about straight white Christian men to farm content for heavily edited clickbait videos, then they would either be in prison, deported, or being actively blamed for their own murder, just as every bad thing that the victim ever did is front page news every time that another black person is murdered by a cop, and just as any Black Lives Matter protest which had attempted to storm the Capitol on January 6th would have been immediately beaten back with dozens of casualties by the most excessively violent National Guard response since the Kent State Massacre, and any Muslim protesters who even dared to storm the Capitol would have been targeted by a fucking drone strike before they even managed to reach DC.
Charlie Kirk's words were so violent that Israeli Jews took it upon themselves to write his name in memory of him on a missile that they are going to launch to Gaza to kill men, women, and children. The same men, women, and children that Charlie Kirk's words helped kill prior to his death. by using his platform of 5.5 million plus followers to regurgitate a narrative of propaganda that the Israelis are using in order to carry out a live-streamed Holocaust. There is nothing worse than helping a people commit a Holocaust. That is his legacy.
Because when you strip away all of the jingoistic propaganda, whether or not you have the right to free speech or even the very right to exist as a human being in the self-proclaimed land of the free depends entirely and solely on whether you make I'm not a bigoted fascist buts feel uncomfortable, threatened or judged. With, from the moment that they heard the news, every I'm not a bigoted fascist but instantly leaping to the conclusion, in defiance of all statistics and common sense, that the sniper must simply have been a purple-haired, black, trans, lesbian, communist, Muslim, Democrat-voting immigrant funded by George Soros with a from the river to the sea and globalize the Intifada tattoo across her forehead, because that is what they ultimately fear.
I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country.
You really wanted it to be a brown person or a black person. You wanted it to be an immigrant. You wanted it so badly. A white boy that was raised by a Republican family in a Republican state that had a father that's a cop, a military family, very well off. His father was also a pastor. He's with guns when he was a child. The rifles that he held were bigger than his whole entire body. Seems like your indoctrination was the problem here. It wasn't immigrants or brown people. Your evangelical groiper indoctrination. Now all of you have gone silent. Okay.
They are willing to hold civil debates in the marketplace of ideas with bigoted Christo-fascists, neo-Nazis, and fascists of every other kind, variety, and stripe, because when all is said and done, as fellow defenders of capitalist white supremacy, patriarchy, cis-het normativity, and everything else that makes up the rest of the oppressive and exploitative status quo, they do not fear them. While tellingly, although there was never any evidence whatsoever that the sniper was black, and on the contrary, the released security footage showed a skinny white kid from the very beginning who his own father eventually turned in, MAGA's immediate, instinctive gut reaction was to start attacking black people and historically black colleges and universities.
Oh my God, Charlie Kirk was just shot and killed by a white guy in Utah, one of the whitest states.
What if we blew up black people? What if I threatened to stab black students at NYU? How do I blame black people?
Only for everyone who had been screaming from the rooftops that this was now a civil war and for all Democrats, liberals and the left to be condemned as domestic terrorists and utterly exterminated, to suddenly change their tune when the actual sniper was arrested and it was revealed that the call was coming from inside the house all along.
We truly believe if Tyler Robinson had ever sat down across from Charlie, the great debater, the man of faith and grace he was, Tyler wouldn't have pulled the trigger. And just in case you were wondering what that kind of 180 looks like in person,
this shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-trans. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
A few moments later.
Well, certainly, but right now, because it's very one-sided right now. The way that I have never called one of my colleagues the kind of names that we've been called. I've never dehumanized my colleagues. In fact, when I've agreed with a Democrat, I've said so. I'm actually, regardless of the press, actually covers me. I'm the 22nd most bipartisan member of Congress. If you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with you. That has always been the message.
Nancy Mace, you know we got footage, right?
We did it, you guys. We did it. We finally got thoughts and prayers for the shooter. And all it took was him being a white guy. That's all it took. Well, didn't really apply to Luigi. He's Italian. Are they even white anymore?
And all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white guy.